Hey there, friend. Welcome back to Daily Dose Radio here in the Bible Bistro. I'm so glad that you've joined me today. Thank you for tuning in so that we can study the Psalms together. That's what Daily Dose Radio is all about. We study the Psalms 5 minutes a day, 5 days a week, studying the Psalms verse by verse. That's what we do here at Daily Dose Radio. So today, Psalm 5, and as you can tell, we're at the beginning of the Psalter. We're starting over again. This is our fourth trip through the book of the Psalms, and we're starting today with verses 6 and 7. So we've been in Psalm 5 all this week, and today verses 6 and 7, and if you have your Bible, once you turn there with me, we're going to look at verses 6 and 7 here in Psalm 5. Now, yesterday we talked about the need for we talked about our condition and God's condition. His condition is holiness. Our condition is foolishness, wickedness, evil. Those are the things we contend with. And, God's just, and He's going to punish those things. So the question is, what in the world do we do? How do we handle that? So we're going to read 6 and 7 today. 6 ends this section on our condition and God's condition and begins the remedy section. So we're going to talk about some wonderful things there in verse 7. So why don't we read 6 and 7 today? Thou shalt destroy them that speak leasing. The Lord will abhor the bloody and deceitful man. But as for me, I will come into thy house in the multitude of thy mercy, and I will fear, and in thy fear will I worship toward thy holy temple. That's verses 6 and 7 here in Psalm 5. And you'll notice that, as I said, we end with verse 6. So you destroy the words, the words of leasing, or them that speak leasing. So that leasing is falsehood. So all the false things. God's going to destroy those who speak false things. And He's going to abhor the bloody and the deceitful, which He does now. Remember what Jesus told us in John chapter 3. We are already under the condemnation of God because of our sinfulness. So all of this is not somebody else's condition. We shouldn't look at verses 4, 5, and 6 and say, well, that's that guy. We need to look in the mirror and know that it's the guy in the mirror that needs help. We're the bloody and the deceitful. We're the murderous. We're the sinful. We're the wicked. We're the evil. Now, we can do good things, surely, but it doesn't change our base condition. So what do we do? If God is going to do all these things in His holiness, if He's going to judge the wickedness, what do we do? Look at verse 7. Here's the good news. But as for me, I will come into thy house in the multitude of thy mercy. Well, there it is. It's the mercy of God that allows us into His presence. He's merciful to us. And in thy fear will I worship. So the fearing of the Lord is obeying Him, humbling ourselves before Him and under His hand. It is confessing our sin before Him and begging for mercy, asking for that mercy, because it is only because of the mercy of God that we are able to come into His presence. And notice that it's into His presence to which we come. That's the great goal. And we have it there in verse 7 twice. Into thy house, toward thy holy temple. So we enter into His presence, we worship Him, but we don't do it on the basis of our goodness or our works. We do it on the basis of His mercy. So to come before Him, that's wonderful. Now, notice what we've done here. We started with prayer, and then we looked at our condition. We're praying to the Lord, and we had the basic definition of prayer there in verses 1, 2, and 3. Then we see our condition, His condition. Now we see the remedy, His mercy. So what do we do with our prayer time now? We cry out for mercy because we understand our condition. Now, tomorrow we're going to look at verses 8 and 9, and after we've made our way into His house, how is our prayer to be ordered? And what are we to pray for? So we'll see that tomorrow as we continue here in Psalm 5. So join me then here on Daily Dose Radio.